And now to kick off today's big report, we're diving into a new, unsettling development. Just when we thought that we were managing the multiple layers of security challenges across Nigeria, another twist emerges. The Defense Headquarters has confirmed the rise of a new terrorist group causing unrest in Sokoto and surrounding states. With this group's appearance, Nigeria faces a renewed threat on its northern front, which has long battled instability from established extremism factions. What does this emergence of this group mean for the already delicate security situation in the region? And what are the broader implications for national safety? Well, we had a package put together by Amadin Uyi, our news central correspondent up in the north. We're going to have that play now, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by him. Let's take a look at his report.
The briefing was supposed to update citizens of the ongoing operations against terrorist groups and criminal elements across the country. However, it came as a shock to those present as the director of the Defense Media Operations announced that the military had identified the existence of a new terrorist group in the northwestern region of the country.
Troops are confronted with a new terrorist sect in the northwest. This sect is known as Lakarawas. The Lakarawas are affiliated to terrorists from the Sahel, particularly from Mali and Niger republics. They began incursion into northwestern part of Nigeria, namely Sokoto and Kebbi states. And like I mentioned, they came in from Niger and the Mali axis.
He accused residents in the area of embracing the group, but assured that the military is already working round the clock to dislodge them from the country.
When they came in, did the people see them? They saw them. What did they do? They embraced them rather than report them. And what has that resulted to? The people saw them as friends. The same friends they thought were friends have turned to foes. And we did not get this report on time until we started creating some havoc. We are on top of that situation. We have sustained our intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, and accordingly carried out air interdiction, ground offensives to degrade these terrorists, find them, flush them, until we finally defeat them. The same way we have defeated terrorist groups in the northeastern part of this country.
The director urged citizens to be security conscious and partner with the military, especially in the area of intelligence sharing. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
And now joining us is Amadin Uyi. He is the Bureau Chief for News Central Television. And he joins us this morning to dissect just basically his report and what these means in terms of counter-terrorism and just the regional stability. Amadin, many thanks for joining us and very good morning to you.
Thank you, Judith.
I mean, let's get started. Just being at the DHQ there and getting that news that there was another or a new terrorist group, what was the atmosphere like, and what was that like for you hearing a name of a new group being announced?
Okay, first of all, I would just like to describe this kind of briefings. It's a briefing where updates are given on military operations by Nigerian troops fortnightly. Now, so what you expect to hear is that the military has neutralized so amount of terrorists. The military has rescued so amount of abducted victims. The military has been able to destroy logistics network of these of terrorist groups and criminal elements. But when the director of defense information, director of defense media operations, Major General Edward Buba, started with the military had identified another terrorist sect in the Northwest. So much runs through your mind, because for somebody who has covered defense for well over 12 years, and you witnessed the heydays of the Boko Haram terrorist group, you witnessed the military having to reorganize and trying to learn on the field so as to be able to crush these terrorist groups. And then you are aware of trillions, as of today, over 5 trillion naira has been spent to see that Nigeria ends terrorism. A lot of things begin to run through your mind. Are we going around in circles?
Seems to be having issues there with Amadin's connection there. Amadin Uyi is our News Center's Abuja Bureau Chief, and he just joined us to discuss about, we understand that Amadin is back. Amadin, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. I said a lot of things begin to run through your mind, because the first questions you begin to ask when you juxtapose how much has been spent on fighting terrorism and insurgency in the north, and then over 5 trillion naira as of today, and then you now hear that another terrorist group is already embedded, you begin to ask yourself, the intelligence agencies that were responsible to have nipped this in the bud, issues about religious regulation of religious teachings and the rest, you definitely know that we are going around in circles, and we have to get our acts right.
Amadin, would like to know exactly how the group affects the communities in Sokoto and the neighboring states. How exactly do they operate? What brought them to note?
Okay, first of all, the modus operandi is simple. It's one, they don't change it. But why this could be possible was the breakdown in diplomatic relations between Nigeria, Niger, and Niger, because the military said that this group came from Niger Republic. They have been existing. So what is their modus operandi? They come in under the guise of religion, deceiving the people that they are here to push religion. And this part of the country being very, very religious, what you get is that the people embrace them. And now when they now have a foothold, they have adherents, they have faithful who are following them, then they begin to show their true color. And by the time they bring out arms, they begin to put levies on communities. You have to tax them, because they need to survive. So you have to pay so and so amount of money before you can go to your farms. Don't practice so and so religion. Anybody that preaches or does anything outside our own gospel is an enemy. So they begin to attack opposing religions or alternate religious adherents. So that is their own modus operandi. And before you know it, because they have recruited a lot of youth, you see this area is bulging with youth. We have a high youth bulge. They give them arms, and then they now begin to use them for their sinister motive. Unfortunately, by the time the military has discovered that they exist, they already have a foothold in the area, and they already have a stranglehold on the citizens. So the military will now have to begin to try to flush them out using boots on the ground and using military means.
Amadin, besides just, counterterrorism from our armed forces, I'd like to talk about more intelligence on the group. Were they able to share with the press during this briefing more intelligence on them, the crowd, their size, their ammunition, what their aim is? Because we know Boko Haram and different type of terrorism group, when they come out, they seem to have an aim. What's Lakarawa? What is their aim? What's their goal? And where's their stronghold or their foothold?
Now, like what the Director of Defense Media Operations said, usually these briefings are not briefings to tell you about military strategy and to just expose their intelligence. They only inform you that this is what they know and this is what... Now, one thing was very clear in his briefing, that operations against this group has already started. That means that the military has begun to engage them. And for the military to engage you, that means there's a form of resistance. So it is very clear that they already have fighters. But the Director of Defense Media Operations stated very clearly that the good thing is that it is not difficult to identify them. He said because one of the core tenets of this group is that you have to keep long beards. When you wear trousers, your trousers are not full length, according to what we call jump up in Nigerian parlance. And then he said their dressing is unique. So it is not difficult to identify that these are members of this terrorist sect. But like he said, it was the same strategy. They came into convincing the people that they were preaching religion, convincing the people that they were a religious organization, and they were preaching preaching a certain doctrine that will make them more pious. And by the time the people embraced them, by the time youths had flocked into their fold, that was when they began to show their true colors, which is arm these youths, put taxes on communities, force farmers to pay certain levies before they can go to farms and harvest their crops.
Amadin, we seem to have a bit of a confusion regarding the pronunciation, the exact name, if it's Lakarawas or Lakurawas. There are many different media outfits giving different names. The army chief actually called it Lakurawas, and in different media prints we are seeing Lakarawas. So if you could give us just a hint of what it might be, what it might mean, and how local authorities have been dealing with them from the past before the army stepped in.
Please, the last question.
Yes, I was asking for the correct pronunciation, if it's Lakurawas or Lakarawas, and also how the army, or rather how local leaders had been dealing with them before the army's taking note of the terrorist group.
Now, the director called them Lakarawas. Lakarawas. He said that they came from Niger, that because of that breakdown of communication and diplomatic relations, I remember that Niger had pulled out of ECOWAS, and Niger used to be a member of the multinational joint task force, where there used to be this military formation or unit that patrols the borders and tries to maintain some sort of sanity. So by the time Niger pulled out of the ECOWAS arrangement, it automatically
We're enjoying that. I'm hoping that we can get Amadin back to continue with that explanation, because that seemed very, very interesting. I never thought that the breakdown of order in Niger, well, not breakdown because it's actually a military rule now, but you'd think that that would actually make things, on the other hand, it would make a flow of everything bad from there coming into Nigeria, and with the lack of security at our borders, you can imagine what that would mean for the Nigerian side.
And I think that was also one of the reasons that informed the border closure during the Muhammadu Buhari regime, which was the proliferation of small arms and Boko Haram. When we saw that in 2019, 2018, thereabout.
Amadin Uyi is back. Amadin, if you're back, you were saying something very interesting regarding the borders and the inflow of these groups into Nigeria. Please, if you'd continue.
Okay, by the time Niger Republic pulled out of the arrangement with ECOWAS, Niger was an active member of the multinational joint task force. So what we had was that because they had pulled out, the borders became porous and vulnerable. And because that arrangement of the multinational joint task force was responsible for patrolling the border area, are responsible for maintaining some sort of sanity, stopping the influx of small arms and light weapons, stopping the crossing of terrorists from one country into another. So it became porous. So they were able to use that advantage and use that benefit to move into Nigeria, into the northwestern region of the country. And like I said, they always come.
Amadin, yes. Are you saying that they're Nigerians, or rather they're Nigerians, not Nigerians? Or are they Nigerians who have indoctrinated Nigerians and are growing the sect here in Nigeria? What's the origin exactly geographically?
They are a Nigerian terrorist sect, not a Nigerian religious organization. So they infiltrated into Nigeria because of the porous security situation. And they came, first of all, with the guys that they were preaching the gospel and they wanted to get adherents to their faith. So they are not originally a Nigerian-based or Nigerian-bred terrorist group, unlike Boko Haram. They are a Nigerian terrorist group that came into Nigeria, but first of all, under the guise of a religious organization. And because they came as a religious organization, the faithful in the Northwest embraced them and did not inform the military that these new people have come to set base in Nigeria. In fact, they had already established a foothold and a stronghold on the lives of citizens in the Northwest before the Nigerian military, through intelligence, got the information that something was amiss in the Northwest region. By this time, youths had already been armed. They had begun taxing and levying local communities and stopping farmers and forcing farmers to pay certain levies before they can access their farms.
I'm so glad we're bringing up, farm, because we're going to be talking about food insecurity pretty shortly. So to wrap up this conversation, what has been the effect, besides just the farmers and the farmlands, what are some other effects when it comes to security and insecurity in those regions that the army has found them?
Now, the responsibility of the army is to protect the territorial integrity. Then they have other responsibilities which can be given to them by the Nigerian state or the commander-in-chief, which is also ending terrorism. So now you have a group of people who they already have fighters. They are already levying farmers. These are poor farmers who depend solely on farming. And they have to, sometimes communities are ordered to pay as much as 20 million naira. How many farmers are in those communities that if you don't pay these monies, you will be killed? We have had instances of farmers being killed and beheaded by Boko Haram in the northeast, fishermen in the Baga area being killed by ISIS, ISWAP, because they do not have monies to pay these levies. So you have an already impoverished population who are trying their best to just do everything to survive. And then you now have a group that tells them, before we allow you to go to your farms, everybody in this village has to pay the sum of 20 million naira. And then the farmers, those who defy these directives, by the time they go to their farms, they are killed. And then when they are killed, to set an example to others, you now have communities running helter-skelter, trying to take loans to be able to settle this group so that they can live their normal lives. So you see, this is why the military had to come in. And by the time they came in, they now realized that this was not the regular Boko Haram we are fighting. This is not the regular ISWAP we are fighting. These are not the regular bandits that try to create chiefdoms and fiefdoms in this area. This is a new sect, terrorist sect, using terrorism to oppress the people and trying to force them to live their lives in a way that is unconstitutional and illegal. So you see, the impact resonates around the country, because down from the south, where food is brought from the north, the cost of food will go up, and then there is scarcity of food because these farmers cannot take their food and crops to the market. By the time they even succeed in taking it to the market, the prices have tripled or have doubled because they have to factor in the monies paid as levies and taxes. So you see, it's not just a Northwest problem or a Northern problem, it's a Nigerian problem, because those in Lagos, living along the coastlines of Lagos, those living in the Niger Delta, in the Port Harcourt, the Calabar, the Akwa Ibom area, those even in the north, in the southwest, and in the southeast will have to pay these levies that the farmers are being forced to pay to the terrorist sect.
I'm so glad the way you just painted out this picture and put out this map. It's very, very important, and it's very clear that we make people understand that this is not a Northeast issue. This is a Nigerian problem, and it has a ripple effect on the entire nation. And that's the best way to wrap up this conversation. Amadin, many thanks for doing this with us. We appreciate you for coming on.